So if we don't have to approximate, we can actually have the calculator find and graph the zeros for us. So we're going to graph whatever our equation is, and then there's a calculate function that we're just going to ask it what the zero is. We're going to set some boundaries, one on the left, one on the right. Then our calculator will guess for us. It does the approximation and spits out at the bottom what our x equals. So when we have x squared equals x plus 6, we have to take that and say, okay, we need it to equal 0. So we're going to subtract the x from both sides and subtract the 6 from both sides, so that in our calculator we can change the 0 to y. So we're putting in y equals x squared minus 6 minus x minus 6 into our y equals. So punch that in real quick for me. So y equals x squared minus 6x minus 6. Oops. Should have just been minus x minus 6. So make sure you did get the correct y equals in there. And then we are going to go second. Calculate. We are going to calculate the 0, which should be the second thing. So you have to go down and hit enter. Down and enter. Or you can just hit 2 and enter. Either way. So on the parabola that it graphs, it wants, on the bottom, it's asking you a question in black where the left boundary is. So when you hit enter, you're going to get a dotted line with a arrow pointing in. You want to put that on the left of where you think the x-intercept is. Then it asks you for a right bound, and you want to put a right bound, another dotted line. It's going to go between those two arrows and try to figure out where the x-intercept is by approximation. So you just hit enter, and then it asks guess, and you say enter again. Yes, I want you to guess, and at the bottom it will spit out your answer. It says the 0 is x equals 3. There are 2 x-intercepts though. We have another x-intercept over here. So we have to do it again. We have to set a left bound on the left and a right bound on the right. If your arrows aren't pointing in towards each other, it won't do anything for you. So make sure your arrows point in towards each other. You can calculate your second x-intercept. Your 0 of the function. This time it says instead of -3, x is, or instead of 2, it says instead of 3, it says -2. Those are our 2 answers for our problem. And our work for this is actually just sketching that graph that we had. Showing our x-intercepts there and there. We solved by graphing. That's our work for that. We're done. We're going to do the same thing for this other one. We have to first set it equal to 0. So I'm going to add the x squared so that x squared is positive. I always like having my x squared positive if I can. It just helps me. I'm going to subtract the 14. So now I'm going to plug that into my graphing calculator. Y equals x squared minus 6x plus 9. We're going to graph it. That takes a minute, so you have to wait for your calculator to graph it for you. It looks like there's one place where it might cross the x-axis, and so we're going to do the same thing we did last time. Second, calculate, find the 0. We got to do a left bound and a right bound. And then we ask it to guess, and it says 2.9999995. We have to know that it really means 3. And we're drawing a sketch of that graph as our work. How many zeros can a parabola have? So if our A is positive, we're a happy facing parabola. We could not touch the axis at all. We could just exist above the x-axis. There would be no intersects with this axis down here. This is a 0. Could be like our last problem where we come down and we just touch once and have 1. Or it could be a normal happy parabola where we come down and cross once, twice, and have 2. If we're a frowny parabola, Mr. Sad Guy says, well, I don't have to cross the x-axis. I could be entirely below the x-axis, and so there would be 0. I could come up and touch the x-axis exactly once, or I could come up and go down and cross it twice. Can we cross it 3 times? Is there any way our parabola would turn back around and cross it again? Well, no, because then it wouldn't be a parabola, right? So these are our only options, 0, 1, or 2.